Now, staying with business matters, it's a good day for Shell. The oil firm has reported record profits of nearly £14 billion. It's the most profitable company in British history. Declan is at a Shell garage in West London. And Declan, just tell me, first of all, getting a lot of texts on this, is it a British company? Because it's Royal Dutch Shell, isn't it?
Yes-ish, it's a British company. Shell historically had been a joint British-Dutch company with Royal Dutch Shell on the other side of the channel, and then Shell Transport and Trading on this side of the channel. That dual structure was swept away in following a review of the business after the scandal over the company misstating the amount of oil it had in its reserves. That's a scandal that cost the chairman of the company his job. So it's now a company with a unified structure. Its headquarters for tax purposes is in the Netherlands, but its operating headquarters is here in the UK, and its share listing, primary share listing, is in London as well. So for operational reasons, it's a British company, but in terms of tax, the only British tax it pays is on the operations here in the UK rather than on its overall group taxation. So you won't see it paying British tax on that entire 14 billion pounds profit that it has made. Just a word on that profit, by the way, from the trade union, some reaction to them for this one. This is from the Unite trade union, Tony Woodley, the Joint General Secretary, then describing these profits at Shell as obscene. Mr. Woodley says that he has no problem with companies making profits per se, but he questions this excessive mega profit at Shell and calls on the government to take what he calls the brave step of putting a windfall tax on these companies. Now, the other question, of course, is how much of the profit that is made comes from the petrol that we buy here at filling stations like this. The answer is not very much, because the bulk of the money we spend at petrol stations goes on tax to the government. Well, let's talk to Louise Doherty. She's from a website called petrolprices.com, and your website checks prices all around and tells people where the cheapest prices is. So you're very familiar with how motorists want to get the cheapest price for their petrol that is possible. What do you think they'll make of these profit figures announced today?
Well, I think at first look, they're going to say, well, you know, so many billions of pounds, why is it now costing me, you know, 50, 60 pounds to fill up my tank when they're making all this profit? But assuming that those profits are going back into finding more efficient methods of drilling, or perhaps finding more petrol for the future and securing cheaper petrol for the future, these profits from Shell are not necessarily a bad thing.
Do you think that motorists accept the argument that's been made by Shell today, that the profit isn't made here at the forecourt, it's made at other stages of production? Or do you think motorists will say, well, yes, of course, Shell would say that, wouldn't it?
They will say, yes, of course, Shell would say that. For motorists, as far as they're concerned, their petrol prices have been rising since mid-September, really. Right over, we hit £1 a litre in November, and then, you know, okay, it's tailed off in the last week or so, but it's been continually going up.
I was talking to Shell yesterday, the confidential information, but one thing that they mentioned was that they regard themselves as the most competitively priced petrol company among the big oil majors. So not counting the supermarkets, but among the other oil companies, Shell regards itself as the cheapest of the lot. Is that true? Is there much of a difference in price between the different companies?
It's not necessarily true. You can't always say this petrol station or this supermarket is going to be cheaper, because it depends on so many things. It depends on you know, where that petrol station is located. It depends on competition, lots of other things. For example, there's 2 more petrol stations, Shell petrol stations, you know, 2 minutes around the corner from here. One of them is selling at 4p less expensive and one is 2p more expensive.
Just around the corner.
Yeah, so it really pays to shop around and use sites like ours to get the best price.
All right, Louise, thanks very much. You are allowed to say, by the way, what on earth are you people doing making me stand outside in weather like this? But, you know, that's the nature of news and the nature of weather. Much more from here in the next hour. We're also going to talk to the UK chairman of Shell.